Okay, we are back at AWE TV. I'm your host, Joseph Rampolla, and I am here with Mike Kuniavsky. Am I pronouncing that right, or am I close?
It's pretty close.
All right, and you are from PARC, so tell us, you spoke not too long ago,
yes.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a user experience designer. I've been a user experience designer for a long time. And I specialize essentially in the design of user experiences for new technologies, for technologies that are currently just emerging. So at PARC, what I've been doing is, and PARC is a research lab, so PARC is essentially full of completely cutting edge technologies. We can essentially print a device. I'm just giving an example. We can print a device that has a battery in it, and has a processor on it, and has a display on it, and we just print on a sheet of paper, and then you charge it up, you push a button, and it turns on. And so that's really, really, totally super cutting edge technology. And so what I've been really focused on is how do these technologies apply to the objects in the world, essentially to our lives. And that's what I've been doing at PARC, is kind of helping design those and helping think about that. And that's the talk that I gave today. It was essentially kind of a very broad set of ideas around designing for this new world.
Great. So you get any good feedback at all when you were done with it?
Yeah.
With your presentation?
Yeah. I think people are pretty. I think it resonated with people in a way that was. There's essentially this. The thing that I've seen today a lot is that. There's this assumption that augmented reality is essentially this layer, this digital layer that is on your visual field that kind of lays on top of the world. But really, I think people are starting to have a much more subtle understanding of what augmenting reality means. And it's not just wearing a thing on your eye, which of course is a completely interesting and valuable thing to do, but it's also the fact that our tables and our rooms and our cars and all the places that we go and all the things that we touch can be and increasingly are augmented by digital technologies. And so your experience with that, people's experience with that is really very different than with a device like this that is purely for computing.
Right.
So I think that resonated with people. At least now, I hope.
You were here 2 years ago.
Yes.
Right? Did you speak 2 years ago?
I did.
Okay, and any difference between 2 years ago then and where AWE is now?
There's so much more energy in AWE this time. 2 years ago, essentially it was kind of like being at a decaffeinated coffee conference. People were kind of interested, but it really seemed like it was the tail end of something. But now, I think largely thanks to Google Glass and kind of what it's opened up in terms of a dialogue that people can start to have with these kinds of technologies, it's really a lot more excited. The technologies are more exciting, people are more excited to use them, and I'm pretty happy to be here. So.
Now, I can call you a geek, right? That's a good term.
I'm wearing the glasses, so
if I said nerd, that might be like offensive. But I know you have some writings that you've done, you've authored. So
yes.
Why don't you tell us some stuff that you've authored?
So I've written a couple of books. Most recently I had the second edition of my first book come out. It's called Observing the User Experience, and it's essentially a cookbook of methods of understanding how people experience technologies. So it's just essentially a bunch of different ways that you can go out and find out how someone is actually experiencing technology that you're putting out in the world. And that came out last September. I wrote a book called Smart Things that came out a couple of years ago that's actually much more directly related to what this conference is about. And it's about essentially the design of technologies that have embedded computing and networking in them, and how designers and how people who are project managers or product managers or entrepreneurs can think about the implications of these technologies as they apply to kind of the whole world. So,
now you've been in this space for a while.
Yep.
I mean, not to put you on the spot, but where do you see it going and the speed of it? Because I mean, you heard from the keynote this morning about by 2020, 1 billion users experiencing. Any predictions, or where do you really see AR moving?
Where I see AR moving is AR as one of the toolkits, as one of the tools in a toolkit of ways that people interact with the world in a digital way. That essentially, there are all kinds of things that are now increasingly casting what I call information shadows into the cloud. Essentially, everyday objects like your car or like your house or like your keychain if you have a Fitbit. They essentially have this presence up in the cloud, and the way that you experience that, the way that you make use of that, is going to come in a wide variety of ways. We're going to have tablets, and then we're also going to have AR. We're going to have ways that we can essentially look at the world, if we're looking at purely visual AR, we look at the world and we can essentially say, these are all the objects that I see that have been transformed through their digital presence up in the cloud, and that's going to be one of the ways that we experience those objects. In some cases, for example, if you sit down in a Tesla, you're experiencing the object itself. The object itself, it's got a screen in it, and it's constantly sending data up into the cloud. And rather than putting a layer over things in a Tesla, you're literally utilizing the object itself. And that's going to be another way that we experience that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I know people always think about AR as only visual only, but there's all these other senses that we can also do. And one of the keynotes was talking about just utilizing sound and that sort of thing. So there's just so many different ways I think that AR can enhance somebody's life, and we'll see it as it eventually rolls out. What are some ways that some people can get in touch with you, Mike, and maybe learn more about you and read about some of the stuff that you've done?
So they can send me email at PARC.
Okay.
It's very straightforward. I'm Mike K at PARC.com. Okay. So that's very easy. I have a blog at Orange Cone, so the color orange plus the cone. Okay. I have I occasionally write articles, and every couple of years a new book.
Okay, super. Well, listen, thanks for taking some time out and talking about AR, and it's been a pleasure to meet you. And hopefully, we're just kicking off this whole conference, so hopefully we'll see you after and catch up with you and see how things went.
Okay, fantastic.
All right,
thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely, thank you.